Hello everyone, we're out here today testing the all-new ProKennex KI Q+Tour. This is the 305 16x19 that Manish and I will be reviewing.
And then I have the Pro, which is an 1820, which is going to be reviewed by Oak and Mark.
So these rackets are both 305 grams unstrung, which is new to the Tour line. They've had heavier weights in the past with more dense patterns. They've had lighter versions with open patterns. Now both of them are 305 unstrung. Only difference in spec is the 1619 versus the 1820.
Yep.
Both are straight beam, a little over 20 millimeters thick. Both have a swing weight kind of in that mid 320 range. As far as the racket goes, we're going to be talking about 1619, you and I. And let's jump into where we spend the most time on the court, at the baseline. What'd you think, Manish?
I really liked it from the baseline because it's such a control frame. I felt like I could just clock in bigger shots without having the fear of it flying out. I was able to test out both of them side by side. Of course, I spent more time on the one that we were reviewing. And they both played really well. I do love having that access to spin from the 1619. I feel like I could get a good amount of loop on my balls, and because I was free to hit a little bit harder, because just mentally I felt like I was able to, I was getting a bit more power and jumpiness on my shot. So I really liked it from the baseline.
I will agree with you.
Yeah.
From the baseline, I've always liked a recipe like this type of racket. Low power frame, open string pattern. So that low powered kind of flex in the frame gives you that comfort on the arms, but really lets you step in, take a big rip when you need to. I will say there's not a ton of free power here, so you're not gonna get that like easy depth in the plow through department, and there's not a ton of put away power, but the open string pattern, especially this 1619, the mains are pretty normal, but if you look at the crosses, they're really spaced apart. So you're getting easy launch angle, can really go for those cross court angles when you're being crafty and whatnot. So from the baseline, I really appreciated the open pattern over the dense. It made my life easier.
Fairly open 1619 for a 98, I would say as well. So definitely liked it from the baseline,
Yeah, and then from there, as we transition, come to the net every now and then. I know you've been working on your net game, trying to get those little drop volleys, kind of like me. I know you're trying.
I'm trying, and I think the racket definitely helped. In some ways, I definitely could tell the swing weight is a bit low, but just itself is quite maneuverable, both these frames. The 1619 version of the frame I really do like because I can, again, the maneuverability, I can just really get the undercut on that. So a lot of the volleys that I was hitting, I feel like I had more variety just because of that maneuverability from the frame. I could be a bit crafty, punch into the ball, but if I wanted to do those sneaky drops that you're famously done to me a lot of the times, I could do that as well.
So would you say even with the Kinetic system, you still had good touch and feel like on those volleys when you're hitting short balls?
That's the criticism that I've had with a lot of the ProKennex rackets that I have reviewed in the past, where I felt like the kinetic chamber and all that was taken away from the feel a bit too much. But that's something I did not have with the Tour or the regular, the 1619, which was surprising to me, and I liked it. I really did like it,
Yeah, so at net for me, just what really stood out is that fast feel, that kind of mid 320 swing weight is a little lower, and the weight's lower than I usually play with my customized racket. So really fast, very comfortable. That's what I like when players are hitting the ball really hard at me. I'm looking for something that absorbs the shock, doesn't hurt my wrist. I would probably beef it up a little bit just to give me a little more depth on my volleys, but comfort was great. Even with the Kinetic system, I felt like I could place the ball with nice touch. So going from baseline to net, now going big on the serve, which I know you like to do. What did you think about this racket when you got to the service line?
I think that's the aspect of my game that got hit the most in terms, because I wasn't getting the whole lot of power or anything. I mean, I could still get the ball in because it's got a bit more control to it, so I can still hit big, but I just wasn't, even from Zenith data, I wasn't getting the most amount of pace on my shot. So I think that's the only part of my game that took a hit, but otherwise it was pretty good. Like I still was able to maneuver the racket, get some kick into it. Again, that's where the 1619 shines the most. But yeah, I think the power aspect was just a bit lacking in terms for my serve.
Yeah, I agree. This racket isn't really designed to be that real boom stick to give you that easy power. So I wasn't getting that any extra help or boost on my serve when I was going for the flat ones. But I felt like what I do on serve well is hit my spots and use my spins. And this racket's very precise, very good on the kick and slice, so I could get a lot of action. So I felt like I was just one of those pitchers that's really mixing up my spots well, but maybe not blowing it by you with a lot of smoke.
Yeah.
So that's how I felt on serve. And then when it came to returning serve, how did the racket work for your game?
So that's where I think, so I've had elbow issues recently, and it's usually when I'm returning bigger balls coming right at me is when I feel that twinge. Didn't feel anything with either one of these rackets, which is something that I wanted to highlight. But just besides that, playing-wise, I wanted to highlight the maneuverability part as well, because I'm not hitting any winners off of the return or anything because there's not a whole lot of power in here, but the maneuverability and of course this open string pattern works well to just let the ball go in deep, get into the rally and just get in and start off the point. But I did like it.
Yeah, for me on returns, it really just came down to the comfortable feel. Playing against big servers, this one really absorbs the shock well. Like you mentioned, not getting a ton of power on my return, and that's where I would beef it up some with swing weight to give me easier depth when I'm taking that short, compact swing. So I think it needs a little more mass on return, maybe not the biggest return weapon, but I really liked how comfortable it was on my arm and my wrist, and I felt like if I needed to chip the return, it was really precise.
So you've mentioned customizing the frame a few times. Is there any particular thing that you'd like to do as of today?
Probably just the first thing I would do is just add some swing weight. So pretty much weight anywhere from the 3 and 9 or higher would help get that swing weight like closer to 330, maybe a little higher, just to give me a little bit more through the court on ground strokes and returns.
Maybe a leather grip as well? Maybe?
Yeah, I mean, you could put a leather grip on this racket if you want. That would make it more headlight. Also mention that you can't put weight inside the trap door.
Yeah.
So a leather grip would probably be the easiest way to make it a little more headlight.
All right, thanks Manish and Troy. So we're gonna be talking about the 18x20 variant of this frame. This is the pro version, but aside from that naming, they're very similar rackets like Troy and Manish mentioned, pretty much identical specs in terms of swing weight, RA. I know you're a fan of denser patterns. I like denser patterns myself as well. So what were your thoughts on this Pro 18x20 iteration?
Well, first off, I gotta say they picked the right two players for the Pro. But overall, I really like this racket. Both rackets fit my game nicely. I'm really into these 98-305 themes. The spread of the string pattern, as long as I had maybe a 125 or a 120 string diameter, I was getting good spin. The mid 320 something swing weight and the low 60 RA wasn't giving me a ton of power. Like Troy mentioned, I would probably add a little bit of weight up 3 and 9, 8 and 2, something like that, just to give myself a little more plow through power. But the racket overall was very versatile. Everyone knows ProKennex is known for comfort, and these rackets are soft, so there's tons of precision, tons of control. And I would say it's mixed with elements of power. I wasn't getting in a huge launch angle, but again, it absorbed pace very well, like the other two gentlemen mentioned on the prior racket. I had pretty easy directional control. So if you're launching me some heavy shots off your backhand, I'm able to kind of absorb the pace, change direction. But overall, just a comfort, control, precision theme for me. Yeah. And I really like the racket overall.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you as far as like absorbing pace goes. I think for an 18x20 pattern in particular, this racket actually has pretty exceptional dwell time. I think that low RA is going a long way to make the experience just a little bit more flexible. And me personally, I love having a little bit more dwell time on a lot of my shots. I feel like I can sort of hold onto the ball a little bit more, really shape it more authoritatively. And honestly, off either wing, this 18x20 was really conducive for flattening out some of my shots, I found. And the 16x19 by comparison, for me personally, was just a little bit too much pocketing. So I did prefer that slightly quicker, response out of the string bed. And honestly, I found much of the same up at net. I've been trying to rush the net a little bit more lately. I know if you and I are playing a point, we'll get dragged into some like really long baseline rallies, and If I'm going to try to win a point, I'm going to try to shorten it up. So for me personally, I thought this was fantastic up at net. Did you find that to be true as well?
I thought it was very easy. I feel like I'm almost cheating if I get to the net with this racket. Whether I was going to swing a volley or chip it back into play, it was very obedient, very predictable. And then that kind of segues me into a question I had for you. I know you're two-hander, very strong on the top spin. I rely a lot on my backhand slice and almost push it a lot. What do you think with the backhand slice, the bite on this?
Yeah, I actually found that I was getting really good depth and movement on my slice. The one thing that I didn't quite love is that I felt like I was getting just a little bit higher of a net clearance than I wanted on the slice in particular. You know, usually with the slice off the backhand win, I'm trying to knife it through the court, keep it nice and low to the net. And I felt like for whatever reason, this one was just kind of sitting up a little bit too much for my liking. While that was helpful for sort of recovering and getting back into a point, it did allow my opponents to tee off on that ball a little bit more easy. So I felt like if I were to be slicing with this, I had to be really intentional about really cutting through and under the ball to keep it low.
Right.
But that did surprise me, especially with this being an 18x20.
I really love my backhand slice approach. I felt like I could come in behind and kind of sneakily put away volleys at net. So yeah, I really thought this was a very versatile, utility-oriented racket.
And would you say that's the case on serve as well?
I wouldn't say I struggled on serve, but everyone knows I'm more of a counter puncher. I would like a little bit more free or cheap power. So I'm getting tons of comfort. If they stiffened up the graphite a little bit, I might get a little more pace. So, you know, I don't move the ball around quite as well as Troy, but I was hitting my spots, decent pace. I was able to get into points without having, you know, a return smoked by me.
I will say that on serve in particular, I feel like this is where the movable mass within ProKennex frames really shines for me. I feel like I can really take advantage of that secondary acceleration source above my shoulder to really snap over the ball and get some extra free power. Maybe that's just my motion or how I serve, but for me, it was actually a really well-performing racket on serve, one of the better areas of the playtest. Unfortunately, I did struggle a little bit more on returns. That was the one area where I wasn't as appreciative of the dwell time. I maybe wanted just a little bit of a quicker in and out of the string bed on that particular shot.
Definitely a lot of purchase over what you're going to do with the ball, but the exit doesn't happen so fast, so it requires a little more length of swing path, or maybe a little more speed on the swing path. But overall, just a dynamite racket.
Yeah, and I will say that we played a little bit of singles and doubles with these frames, and I actually preferred these rackets for doubles, in particular the 18x20. Felt like I could just more confidently rush up to the net, 'cause that's where I was ending points more often regardless. And in doubles, that's where almost all the points are gonna be won. That wraps up this playtest of the ProKennex Ki Q+Tour line and the Pro Edition, the 18x20. For this playtest today, we had two different string setups that we were using. We've got Solinco Hyper G at 53 pounds, and then Tennis Only P6 also at 53 pounds. For more information on this racket or anything else tennis related, check us out at Tennis Warehouse, Tennis Warehouse Europe, and Tennis Only.